Hello and welcome along to another version of the Andrew Eborn Show. And I'm delighted that my very special guest today, all the way over stateside, is Elizabeth. How are you, Elizabeth?
Oh, I'm peachy. How are you, Andrew?
I am wonderful, but we can't see you. What's happened?
I don't know. What do I do? I am so technically challenged.
No, but we saw you a moment ago and then you disappeared. We couldn't hear you. I think
God.
we could only play with one sense at a time by the sounds of it. Can you hear me now? Disappeared altogether. And I think we're now live. We now have Elizabeth live, not just audibly, but visually as well. How are you, Elizabeth?
I am so peachy. How are you?
Peachy is the word, isn't it? Because I've been watching your social media stuff, and you have some of the best peach shops in the world. Tell me about that.
I have some of the best what?
The peach shop that I saw around the corner from you looked divine.
The peaches. We have this lovely, lovely mom and pop store. And I am all about the mom and pop stores. To hell with the grocery stores. Support local mom and pop.
You've got to do that. And tell us, Elizabeth, whereabouts is local for you? Where are you?
I am in Jeanette, Pennsylvania, which is outside of Pittsburgh.
We love Pittsburgh.
40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. I'm near Latrobe.
Oh, fantastic. Well, what a joy. And I love it. And I love seeing, and those of people who have not yet had the joy of witnessing your social media feeds, you take us on little journeys around the world. And what I love about this show is we get to meet lots and lots of people. And this is the first time that we've met. You know, we've spoken
I know.
And you have been such a brilliant advocate of the Andrew Eborn Show. I thought we should get you on and find out all about you.
What?
Yes, absolutely. So what's really good, because you threatened to introduce the Andrew Eborn Show to a global audience to help be one of the wonderful ambassadors, and we love ambassadors. We're always very grateful for our ambassadors. And I thought you were going to introduce us to John de Mol, and he's going to come on. There's a wonderful writer who's going to come on, John D'Amour. Jean de Mol is the creator. He's a wonderful Endemol. He was the founder of Endemol. And Jean d'Amour is a wonderful author who you've also introduced me to. And I think we're going to have him on the show a little bit later, but maybe not today.
He's an excellent interview.
And how did you find him? How did you discover him?
They're going to go wild. All over the world, they're going to go wild.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that. I've seen some of the interviews, and some of them are a little bit tame, but hinting at stuff, but we'll eke it out of him somehow. But before we come on to John, tell me about you, because you have got a fascinating little snippets of information about you on Facebook. Tell me about the real you. What do you get up to?
The real me. Okay. The real me is Elizabeth Carbone. I was born in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and my father and mother, Natalie John Carbone III, and my mother, Elizabeth, they had 3 children, and I'm the middle child. Oh, no.
But being the middle child, did you get more spoiled? People always say, look, the youngest child always gets spoiled rotten. The first child gets used to sort of just, parents are trying to work out what's going on. The middle child, you're a bit more relaxed. And then the youngest child. Talk to me about the pecking order in your family. Who are the other 2?
My older brother was Natalie John Carbone IV, and my younger brother is Richard. I'm middle, and we were all equal opportunity, spoiled rotten to the core.
Well, that's good. And what about your parents? What did they do?
My mother was a retired nurse, and my father was born into the restaurant business. An Italian-American restaurant my grandparents started, my grandfather and my grandmother Mary. And we were in the restaurant business for over 80 years.
80 years? Good heavens. And what sort of food? Was it Italian food?
80 years.
Wow.
Yes, Italian American. We threw in some like Slovenian, Hungarian too for grandma.
Good heavens. Was your grandma Slovenian?
Yes, she was.
Nah, and a bit of Hungary. You never go hungry with a Slovenian.
Never, never. Or an Italian. Or
Or
an
an
Italian.
Italian, you're right, but you can get the
Oh,
Hungarian in
but
there as well, you see. So
I think
what?
Greeks are the worst.
Oh
I
no,
mean, they open your mouth and just keep feeding and feeding.
it is an absolute job. But the Chinese are the same, you know. This is what, when people first go on a business trip, they don't realize that because we get so confused about culture and things like that. And I always think, as you know, as regular of the show, you contribute wonderfully online. We try and have a little peek beneath the kimono of different cultures, different people around the world and how they react. And in China, it's very different. If you go for a business meeting in China, you get taken out for dinner, you're supposed to leave a little bit. Because if you finish your plate, they assume you're still hungry and they will continue bringing you dishes. And I know many people, the first time they've been to China, they go to a business meeting and they get fed and fed and fed until they actually explode at the end. So it's all I think you're right. You need to know when it's right to finish your plate and when it's right to sort of leave a little bit because it's polite and said, I've had enough. Because it's also like if you burp or you belch, that's very good in certain cultures because it means you've appreciated your food.
Well, I was always taught when you're finished with your food, you take your fork and your knife and you lay it across your plate.
I think you're right. And I don't know about you, Elizabeth, but I would always make sure, because I always like to be a bit neat and tidy. I make my knife and fork, I would just sort of do a little tap with maybe this finger here, and just make sure that the knife and fork are wonderfully parallel, and you can see the sort of glorious symmetry that happens. And I think it's sort of a 90-degree angle.
Oh, holy wow. We are the same. We do the same thing.
You see, isn't that good? It must be the good upbringing. I think 80 years in the restaurant business would be fantastic. And whereabouts were these restaurants, or are they still going?
No, we sold. My father had retired and my aunt was still running it. And she was in her late 80s, early 90s when they sold. So, and my aunt, lovely, her name is Natalie Carbone Mangini. She worked for the Westinghouse Corporation before she came back to the restaurant. I mean, everybody was born in the restaurant. I started working there at the age of 5. I got 50 cents an hour to dry the bar glasses in the upstairs bar. So, but Aunt Natalie, she was a nuclear physicist.
Good heavens.
She worked for Westinghouse, and she was the only female to work on the atomic submarine, the Nautilus.
Wow. Good heaven. How on earth did you get into that? From the restaurant business to being a nuclear scientist, I think it's superb.
Well, both my father and my aunt wanted to be chemists, and they were going to be Natalie and Natalie, the world famous chemists. I'm just not saying that my aunt and my father are smart, but boy, are they smart. They could give Alex Trebek a run for his money.
Okay. Alex likes a good run.
Oh, he does though, doesn't he? He puts on those cute little shoes and goes for a stroll.
Absolutely glorious. But instead, so that's what they did. Very, very smart. And then you also, but you followed a different path yourself. You didn't get involved, apart from at the age of 5, and you're drying your dishes and then drying the glasses and things like that, making a little bit of money. You got involved with music fairly early on, didn't you?
Well, I've always adored music, always adored. Took piano lessons whenever I was wee from a concert pianist who worked for the Pittsburgh Symphony. And I did piano with her, 11 years. And then I picked up alto sax, tenor sax. I tried to teach myself guitar.
Oh, how did that work?
Not good. I have little fingers, okay? They're short, stubby little fingers. They're short and stubby this way, so I couldn't go around the fret. I didn't know how to hold the guitar properly. So I was good with the piano. I can stretch over an octave. I'm good this way, but not this way. So, but I adore music. I adore music.
No, and I love it. I mean, look at your social feed. I mean, you have a passion. Let me put it that way: a passion for the Beatles in particular.
Just a wee.
Just a wee. And how did that start? How were you first introduced to the Fab Four?
I was 5 years old, and
Fab Four at 5. Looking alive. Oh, good.
Five, lucky number 5. No, I was 5 years old, and my grandparents, of course, had a jukebox in the restaurant.
Oh, brilliant.
And I mean, we listened to music all the time. My parents, geez, the Rat Pack. I was raised on the Rat Pack, Herb Alpert, Ray Conniff. Geez, Christmas. It wasn't a Christmas without Ray Conniff. My uncle was also very sidetracked. Uncle was always very interested in music and encouraged us. My mother made sure that all 3 of us children took piano lessons. We had a baby grand piano. So all 3 of us had to take piano lessons. And my uncle, which we've never discussed him, he worked in children's television.
Yes, you sent me a little note about that, because I got involved from a fairly early age doing children's television. I used to warm up some of the Saturday morning shows they had here, and some of the iconic shows like Motormouth and Finders Keepers, and I used to do lots of the award ceremonies and things like that. So yes, grew up on that sort of thing. So what did your uncle do? What sort of TV shows?
It was on PBS, public broadcast.
Yeah.
And it was called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh, I remember Mr. Rogers. Didn't he have a horse?
No, he had puppets.
Oh, okay.
And he had 2 parts to his show. Whenever he walked into his Mr. Rogers' home in the neighborhood, and then the trolley would take us to the land of make-believe. And that's where the puppets came.
Oh,
and
what did your uncle do in the land of make-believe?
He treated children like they were what they are, important. He listened to them. He also studied psychology. He's also an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church, but he would help children through life. Fred Rogers was, whenever Kennedy was assassinated, he discussed it with the children. He discussed what the word assassination meant. And even whenever he retired, after he retired, 9/11 happened. And Fred Rogers came back on the airwaves to not only address the children about 9/11 here in the United States, but to the adults also. He was an amazing man. He was an angel on this earth. And I know he wasn't known in the UK, but recently Tom Hanks played my uncle in the movie called It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
I saw that movie. I was going to ask you. So that was your uncle?
Tom Hanks played my uncle.
How exciting. No, that should be the name of your book. I love it. Tom Hanks played my uncle. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, how exciting.
Oh, yes. And then it was so funny because Ancestry.com, I don't know who or why they did it, but shortly before the movie premiere, it was discovered that Tom Hanks's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, 6, was the same as Fred's.
Mm.
Oh my God, there's
So they
6
were
cousins.
related. Good heavens. So you're related to Tom Hanks somehow.
Oh, 6 degrees of separation. You know,
Oh,
Kevin,
almost
it's a
6.
Kevin
I'm glad you
Bacon
counted
thing.
that number.
It's a Kevin Bacon thing, right?
Ah, we love Kevin Bacon. It's all good, especially on holidays.
Oh,
Fantastic
yes.
stuff. Well, what a joy! So did you discuss when? I mean, because a lot of these actors are brilliant at doing their research. What did you know? What Tom Hanks did in order to research your uncle?
Well, he worked with Fred's wife, Joanne, tremendously. And I'm going to tell you what, Tom Hanks is an amazing actor. He took, I mean, the voice sounded so similar to Fred. His mannerisms. I mean, I don't know how many hours of film, that he has watched, but he was spot on.
And isn't that
And
great? And to come from you to talk about your uncle and to say that to Tom Hanks, he would take that as a wonderful compliment, wouldn't he?
I think so. He's an amazing man, and he portrayed an angel on earth, and he did an absolutely incredible job. In fact, he was up for Best Supporting Actor for the Academy Award.
For playing your uncle.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, Elizabeth, you know why I mentioned the horse? I mentioned the horse because I was thinking of Roy Rogers and his horse called Trigger.
Trigger, yes.
So when you meant Rogers, and I thought, oh, the children's television, it must be to do with a horse called Trigger, because I remember that.
Oh, yes. I remember Trigger. Mr. Ed, too. He was
I
awesome.
remember Mr. Ed, the talking horse, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Have a stable relationship with the talking horse. It's got to be great. No, we loved it. Well, I love the fact. So how often did you see, and it must be interesting having an uncle who's that famous and then introduced to a new generation through Tom Hanks. Must be glorious. Did you dine out on that? Do you still dine out on that? And if so, do you go to one of your old restaurants?
Our restaurant is closed. I don't know what you meant. Say that again.
Oh, right. That's okay. We got sort of lost halfway through there. No, I was talking, so often we talk about dining out when people always say, tell us about your very famous father who's now been played, uncle who's now been played by Tom Hanks. And people would tell the glorious stories and people would buy them dinner just to hear your glorious stories. That's what we call, we have an expression here in jolly old Blighty called dining out. We dine out on those stories. And I was trying to tie the dining out with your Italian restaurant, because I thought that'd be quite good. You could have a little incentive where you could talk about your uncle, because I'm dining out on my uncle, and the place you would dine out would be in one of your restaurants, and that would have been rather fun. But
you know what? You are just so adorable, Andrew. You truly are.
Sequentially, we'll get there eventually. It's rather good. But I love it. So how often would you see your uncle?
Oh, his parents lived across the street from us.
Okay.
He would come over whenever he was around, and he'd ring the doorbell, come in, and coming through.
See, he didn't just come in, because I have relatives just come in. They would ring the doorbell.
Hello, he'd ring the doorbell and then come in. Everybody did. Our house was the door was always open. Not like how it is today. I mean, we grew up in a different time, and anyway, one day he came in and he had a friend with him. Van Cliburn.
No.
Yes. So Fred and Van Cliburn sat down and played Baby Grand. It was awesome.
Do you have any snaps of that sort of era? That'd be so wonderful. Do you have a picture of you with your uncle?
Oh, I have a lot of pictures. Yes.
Oh, that'll be good. Well, next time we bring you on the show, you must share. So we'll get this as a regular feature because I love this.
Ooh, we'll get into the juicy stuff.
Oh, we want all
Yes.
the juicy stuff. I love the idea. I love the idea. You're an ambassador for the Andrew Eborn show in North America. I love the idea that we've got connections already with Tom Hanks. We'll get him on the show. I love the connection with Fred Rogers. Nothing to do with Trigger, but I brought Trigger in anyway because we love horses, and we'll make that amazing. All of this is going to be global domination, Elizabeth, and it's all down to you. And I'm very, very grateful. I think that's superb.
We are going to dominate the world. Octopus TV is going to be so huge. I mean, with your intelligence, your knowledge of the UK, of London, of the music industry, architecture, the legal system. I mean, golly jeepers, you know everything.
Oh.
You are Andrew Wikipedia. You know what I mean?
Wikipedia. That could be
Yes.
AW. That could be all.
And you can share your intelligence of everything of the world to the world. And you do it so brilliantly. You do.
And you know why, Elizabeth? You know why? And I never like to stop you because you're saying such a nice thing. You know why? Because I know the person whose uncle was played by Tom Hanks. And that's why. That's what makes me so special, because that's good. Isn't that good? It works so well. But let's get back to you, because it sounds as lovely as it is hearing about me, and it's always music to my ears. A little bit more about you, because you were a photographer as well. So talk to me about your career. You had a wonderfully famous uncle, and we'll find out more when we look at the photographs. Tell me about your career.
I'll get you back to the music. At the age of 5, the jukebox, listened to different kind of music, but there was one song that I heard on that jukebox, and it grabbed me, and it just grabbed me, not because it had the word strawberry in it.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
I have strawberry blonde hair, right?
Hey, fields
and
forever.
It wasn't, I mean, that song just grabbed me at the age of 5. And the first song I ever heard was Strawberry Fields Forever.
Wow.
And the flip side, of course, was Penny Lane.
It was.
And Grandma Rogers' dog was named Penny Packer.
Whoa! A Penny Packer pooch.
So, I mean, I just had to ask the record changer guy if I could please have that record.
I love it. And
that started the madness that is today my collection.
So you have to take us through your collection as well. What are the treasures in amongst all of them?
Treasures. I have a Second State Butcher cover. I have a Third State Butcher, which I had framed. The Third State, the butcher, the boys in the white lab coats with the raw meat and the dismembered baby parts. That's up in one corner. Then the album with the sleeve is over here. And then the original letter from Capitol Records, one of the original letters from Capitol to one of the distributors, I have that. And then the creme de la creme, the 100% trunk peel, okay? With your first state butchers, they're just the original, no trunk peel. Those are around $30,000 for a first state. Second state is Capitol said to the distributors, oh, wow, this could be offensive. Slap this trunk peel on top. Let's hide it. And they use 2 kinds of glue, okay? One kind of glue, you really should, if you have a second state and you want to peel that off, please get a professional peeler. Otherwise, I mean, unless you have tons of money to spend, you know, and you don't care if it goes awry. But get a professional peeler because it's either going to come off or it's not. Okay, and you don't
Those are
know
good
what
choices. It will come off or it's not. I love it. There's no
right.
halfway between the two.
There are no there's no happy medium.
And a peeler for a professional peeler. That's what I like. It's got, we're having a peel for a professional peeler. If
Yes.
there's any professional peelers watching this show, and thousands, I can tell you what, the professional peelers never miss an episode of this show. They're going to be writing in their droves, listeners, saying, we're professional peelers.
Absolutely.
And we'll get them to do it.
So that's, I have the 100% peel. Oh, and what makes my butcher special, my third state, is it's rare because it's stereo. It's not mono.
Oh, wow.
My second state is mono. My third state is stereo. I have six.
Good heavens.
6 lovely strands about this big. 6 of them of John Lennon's hair.
No.
Yes.
John Lennon's hair. Good. How on earth did you get that?
The lads were at a concert. I forget which venue it was. It was not Shea Stadium, but the promoter brought a friend, and the friend was just enamored with the Beatles, and
Elizabeth,
thank goodness.
Just 10 seconds. Elizabeth, just 10 seconds, because you have frozen. You have frozen, so we may need to bring you back. But in the meantime, Elizabeth, to talk about the 6 strands of John Lennon's hair, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back.